Hey Internet folks, must be movie time. Welcome to Spectre Studios, Top Dozen Movies. Welcome Internet and movie fans. You've come across Spectre Studios' Top Dozen Films in our given categories, done here by Spectre Sinensi. Yes, these are my choices. Most of these movies are in my huge DVD collection. Those that know me pretty well pretty much have seen this collection and take advantage of it. But for me, I'm pretty much going to give you an opportunity to know what I enjoy, and hopefully this list will help you find some good movies out there if you haven't seen them. And if you agree with me, comment below. If you disagree even, comment below. Let me know what you think. I'm a great guy for movie debates, and I'd love to hear what you guys have to think about this. But this is basically, again, this is how I feel. These movies have changed what I'm looking at, and for this first dozen, Spectre Studio is we're going to do the top dozen superhero movies. Yep, the superhero movies. A big fan of mine. I got a pretty good size graphic novel collection. I've been following since I was, collecting them in the 80s. Just about every single title. Fell off them about the 90s, and I've moved on with a little bit of graphic novel collecting from there. So, without further ado, let's start our countdown.
Number 12.
Alright, thank you. Alright, so here is my number 12. And this number 12 pretty much is something more of a fandom to the aspect of having some fun. That movie is Mystery Men. That's right, Mystery Men. Big name that kind of came out of that was Ben Stiller. This was directed by Kinka Usher. Stiller's pretty much the big name that will come out from a casual movie type of person going on there. Movie came out in 1999, so it is a dated film. But for me, why I chose Mystery Men, and it got onto this list a couple of the other almost that, it was really fun. It was a really interesting movie with really non-powerful characters, being a group, trying to come together. And the idea came with some pretty interesting story sides. So it's not an overpowering thing. It's not something that you're expecting out of the cool Marvel DC world. But Mystery Men does have a bit of a comic background from that aspect there, and the transition into the film made it a fun, willing to outstretch and be comical, and that was really good for what I liked there. So Mystery Men is number 12.
Number 11. Number 11.
And number 11 is Iron Man. Iron Man pays a little bit to what I kind of like is the Kickstarter to what Marvel has done. And that's really where a lot of this is going to get paid my homage to why I chose Iron Man at a number 11. It really just started the whole Avenger franchise. If you remember, this is where you start seeing Thor and Captain America kind of spin off. But Iron Man was the center core character for this franchise to kind of do what they did with Avengers. And for that, I think that puts him at number 11. Not to mention, Robert Downey Jr. was magnificent in his role. Not a huge Robert Downey Jr. fan. In most cases, he's pretty good. But for being Tony Stark, it's kind of what Robert Downey makeup is, so he was able to nail Tony Stark for what he is. Overly rich guy, alcoholic, just that type of attitude right there. Downey was able to really portray that really well. It was awesome. Directed by Jon Favreau. He's really got a good grip with the Marvel Universe, and I think he did a pretty good job with putting the origin of Iron Man out there, and it really helped launch Marvel to where it is. So in that aspect there, I give Iron Man a lot of credit, and it hits my list at number 11.
Number 10. Number 10.
Alright, so let's go to our number 10 superhero movie list on our list. And that movie is Spider-Man from 2002, directed by Sam Raimi. What? I know, crazy. You guys are expecting Amazing Spider-Man to be on here. And not to say that Amazing Spider-Man is not a great movie. It is a very good movie. But, again, I guess I'm a little bit of a history buff. Sam Raimi really put Spider-Man, Spider-Man's always been around, but he really launched this superhero genre going in. Really to reboot the whole thing, kind of start the fresh. You got to remember, this was kind of going on, and this really helped Marvel get into landing like the Iron Man characters and stuff. Tobey Maguire started. I think he did a pretty good job. The only thing was Raimi's was a little bit with the physics to Spidey, which is the web shooter kind of thing, but more or less it was still a good story. The core was there. I found a lot of things to Spider-Man's really original story was well intact for that aspect of the film. The only thing that Raimi kind of started really messing with that got a little off was the girlfriend situation. But again, for the content of the film to go forward, to be from comic to movie, it was good. And the reason why this one comes over Amazing Spider-Man is because of the performance of William Dafoe, to me. I think Dafoe had a great split personality going in with the Joker. The Green Goblin, I'm sorry. The Green Goblin persona of Dafoe was just awesome. And that's what got me with Amazing Spider-Man. When you look at the two villains, they're very similar the way they're portrayed by both directors, but to me, the Goblin won out for what he was supposed to be. So Raimi hit not only pretty well with Spider-Man, he hit the Green Goblin to me very well, where Amazing Spider-Man, Spidey was awesome, but the Lizard was not really what he was supposed to be in terms of Dr. Connor. So that's why the list is a little bit different. I would love to hear your comments below on this, but that's pretty much why Spider-Man, during the 2002 film, the first that kicked off the trilogy, and we'll talk sometime down the road maybe about trilogies, but at least to this film for its core was really good for origin story. I really enjoyed it. I felt that really was a well done origin story for a superhero at the time it came out in 2002. And it still holds value to me to be able to put that in and watch it and enjoy that value because of the interaction between Spider-Man and the Green Goblin. So that is our number 10.
Number 9. Number 9.
Okay, now we've got to number 9. And this will be an interesting one from the people I talk to. There's a different direction of the view. So number 9 pick is X-Men First Class. Yup, First Class. This is directed by Matthew Vaughn, starring pretty much James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, a couple other names in that situation there. So, why X-Men First Class? Spectre Studio. The Bryan Singer ones are good for their visuals. They really kind of carried over Wolverine's, really introducing Hugh Jackman for that. You know, we saw Storm. You know, seeing the power a little bit with Magneto and things. Yeah, and it really, you know, Jonathan Stewart's, you know, Xavier. But I really had problems with the pairing for a lot of those other X-Men films. They just didn't hit a lot of certain iconic characters at the times where they really mesh. Where if you look at where some of the other films that have been cut out with teams, those guys, they kind of took the right guys that had the characters that interacted pretty well. And it didn't seem like they did that till later. So why is that First Class a little bit better? Well, you know, like Banshee's in it. There's a couple of different characters, but they didn't really try to go with the original. So they didn't mess up the original X-Men, like Angel, Beast, Cyclops, and all them. They kind of like went away. So they had like some earlier of this grouping that Xavier was kind of messing with. So that meant you had a little bit more better groupings with the personalities that you can kind of play around with, and I like that a lot. Not to mention the story, again, another part where the villain is well showcased in part is not only Magneto, who was played in that, was awesome. I thought that was the way Magneto was really supposed to be done. But also it really the element of kind of where the X-Men are, another counterpart, the Hellfire Club. This is, to me, that's what the X-Men really meant. They're really facing these other type of groups because it was a group of heroes, not so much a one powerful entity they often face. They were always kind of facing these other groups, and having the Hellfire Club with their grouping was a good balance to what the X-Men kind of stand for, where they were going to help Xavier do the protecting of the mutants, but not, and also humanity, where the other enemies were usually just trying to afford the mutants and didn't care about humanity. So that was an awesome little element that I thought X-Men First Class more showcased than the other stuff, with a better grouping of people that were well together and being a little bit more fresher in that aspect there. So that is my number 9. Okay, we've come to number 8. And this might be a little surprise for some people that make it my part of the list, but again, it's got a little bit of, some merit to why I'm making this choice. So number 8 is Blade. Blade? Yeah, Blade is a superhero in the Marvel Universe. He's a very obscure character. And from what I researched, it was more or less an easy license that Marvel gave out, but it kind of saved Marvel. It really helped them make some money and allow them to kind of push their future endeavors in the entertainment of movie making. So that's where Blade really rates pretty well, and I thought Wesley Snipes did an awesome job of portraying this character. He really had a lot of that fun, vibrant flavor as a badass half vampire. So it was very cool. This film came out in 1998, so for those that may have not really been aware, it's kind of dated there in that aspect, but it's a good film. The trilogy is solid. It maintains that line, but again, I think it really elevated this character. Blade really came to the forefront and started hitting a lot more of the little media things and some of the video games and stuff like that. So Blade did well to be transferred over in this movie. It really helped increase his popularity. So if you look at that aspect there, that made this movie very good for what it did for Marvel at this time. And again, I enjoy watching it every time I put it in, even as many times as I have. So Blade is definitely a solid for me at number 8.
Number 7. Number 7.
Alright, and what's at number 7? For me at number 7 is Hellboy. Yep, another little offshoot type of superhero type of thing going on. Hellboy's a really fun, interesting character. I think it's a different spin. Again, it hit the forefront, and I think this really helped other superhero movies really get their bearing and push forward into the movie market, because Hellboy was, an interesting very character, and these movies that were represented for him really did well for this character, and it became very enjoyable. Not to mention, I'm a big fan of Ron Perlman anyways, and he just was fantastic to see in this role. And again, also directed by Guillermo del Toro. He has produced some fantastic films out there. And I really enjoy his art direction in terms of what he does to put film out. So this was awesome. This came out in 2004. There's been a second one since the release of this video here. So again, I really enjoyed that. At number 7 is Hellboy.
Number 6. Number 6.
All right. Here we are, number 6. Halfway through our dozen list, and this one I found a little interesting to make it to where it did, but I really felt that I had to kind of put it here, and there's a little bit to why I'm going to put this here. I know there's some talk from my local comic store about why this was a little bit upsetting to some people, but let's go on to it. Number 6 is Man of Steel. Yep, Man of Steel. Why? Directed by Zack Snyder. This one out this year, like 2013. And it was portrayed by Henry Cavill as Kal-El Superman. Now, the reason why I liked it, Zack Snyder has done a pretty good job with his films. This movie was just, to me, a lot of an amazing ability of cinematography, almost of what I've seen from animation. The fight scenes were just over the top. The buildings, the vehicles being crashed, the stuff that was being used for what I saw, which is a Superman or Kryptonians in this movie, was it just kind of reminded me of those animated stuff that DC has put out. So that really gave this film a lot of merit. It's definitely a change on Superman's kind of backdrop story. They kind of went with the earlier part. Of course, he comes from Krypton and lands in the Clark Kent's, the Kent's field, and they take him in and raise him. But then his journey from there isn't the same from what you get. You see a little bit of this Ronin vagabond hobo type of aspect of him, which is different. But we've seen kind of all the other stuff that was kind of going, but it just really, after that got really out of the way and it got to Zod and Superman, the fighting was just, to me, where it should be in a Superman film, and I really, really enjoyed that. It was very solid, and I don't want to give the ending away where some people have some issues, but that's up to you to see and watch. But again, this is a really good film for having people portraying these living, breathing superheroes, and to see the fighting that they kind of put in this was awesome. It's really, really good action, and that action right there just kicks it up that level to the halfway point of this list. So we have Man of Steel at number 6.
Number 5.
All right, well, we are at number 5. Yeah, and number 5 is a fun one for me. Kind of moving away from some of the mainstream comic book characters to more of a graphic novel that really was under my radar. I wasn't really aware of it until I saw this film, and then I started checking out, and I fell in love with it, and I really enjoy it, and that is Kick-Ass. Yeah, it does at number 5. It definitely does that. Why? Because Kick-Ass to me is a tribute of a great film, a fun, mature title film that was definitely given to an audience of maturity, but with that graphic novel background. If you've been reading some graphic novels, the language, the violence, all that stuff, it's already given to us. And this movie really just took the graphic novel and just kind of like put it right there, and it had no problems with it, and it was very fun. It was very enjoyable. It's not Superman, it's not Batman. These are pretty common people with some over-the-top ambitions, until you get to the two Big Daddy and Hit Girl type of thing, which was really cool. But it was definitely a fun, crazy film. But it's in the basis of superheroes, much like Mystery Men. This was a mature title that was put there. And as much as I enjoyed Mystery Men for its fun, I enjoyed Kick-Ass for its maturity and that type of fun aspect going for that, and I really enjoyed the way they put that out there. So that's definitely a good one out. You've seen that, directed by Matthew Vaughn, with starring Aaron Johnson, Christopher Mintz-Faze, Chloe Grace Moretz, Mark Strong, and Nicolas Cage. And Nicolas Cage, I thought, had a fun little role in this one, and he looked like he really enjoyed it. So this one came out. Check right here. This came out in 2010. And a second one has also been out and released on DVD, which is also very good, and I'd recommend you check that out.
Number 4.
Okay, we're at number 4. Yeah, number 4. This one came out in 1994. It's one of those, to me, it's going to start a little trend at the top of my list here for the best films of superhero movies. This one again is a little bit of an obscure graphic novel, but this is a superhero to me, a little bit, albeit strange, but it was well done for this movie. And for those that know Brandon Lee, yep, I'm talking about The Crow. Brandon Lee unfortunately passed away in the making of this film, but they were able to it was pretty much near completion. They only needed a little bit to top it off. I went to the theaters and saw this film, and I was blown away. It was really, really nice and dark, but just kind of hip, and Brandon Lee just delivered an awesome role. So a very strange type of superhero, but it is kind of that graphic novel superhero type of aspect, and he was that type of character. He's going out to basically avenge for those wrongs that have been done to him and the people he loved. But the spin-offs, not so good. TV show, not so good. But this #1 film that Brandon Lee did is spectacular. It is really, really awesome. You need to go check this out. I highly recommend it. Alex Proyas directed it, and it is good. The soundtrack was good for me as well, and it is really, I can't say enough about it. It came, like I said, it's an old film, 1994, but you definitely want to check this out. It really hit hard for me, and I became very passionate about it, and I recommend anyone watching if you have a chance to do that.
Number 3. Number 3.
All right, so we're at number 3, and this one is another one that is an interesting film because it has a very interesting route where it is created from a singular graphic novel. Yep, I'm talking about Watchmen, directed by Zack Snyder, based on Alan Moore's really revolutionary type of changes. It took a lot of mature writing for what it did. You know, the comic book industry wasn't really ready for what Morrison kind of put on those pages, and of course DC wasn't too ready because he had to use some different people. But it's awesome. I think what I liked about Watchmen is it stayed pretty much true all the way to as much as he possibly could to the graphic novel, and I really respect him for that. I thought it was great, and just see that, you know, Watchmen, the graphic novel, is dated. It's, you know, it's older from what you see now, the fresh ink and all that stuff like that. To see the older type of printing that they usually did for those type of characters to get Morrison stuff to come alive was awesome. You know, to see Dr. Manhattan and that power and all that stuff like that was fantastic. It's a very, very mature title. You got language, you got a lot of very intense things for dealing with. It's not something for the little ones, but it's definitely a very cool superhero film if you can handle that maturity, because again, it is something revolutionary if you look at it for what it came out of the graphic novel and take that history from that. It is really awesome, and I really enjoyed it a lot, and really want you guys to take a look at that because it makes an awesome superhero film. It's at number 3, so close to being top. I had a really hard time pushing it down to number 3, but then I felt a couple of these other ones really make the better grade, and we'll see what those are and why.
2.
We are at number 2. So these are the top dogs, and this was really hard not to put at number 1, but again, there's some other things that just kind of push it low, but still, this is number 2. You know, this is awesome, and that is Batman: The Dark Knight. Christopher Nolan's real masterpiece, released in 2008. Of course, Christian Bale playing the role of Batman, and Heath Ledger in his one of his final roles, playing the Joker. Why is this film great for me at number 2? Because Nolan really captured the aspect of Batman versus Joker. They're just that play of insanity with the Joker. The first time I felt, as much as Tim Burton did a really good job with the Joker when he did his play with Jack Nicholson, the way the Joker was portrayed in his story ahead of Batman chasing him, you know, just near the end break of everything and combating the insanity, but yet the calculating nature of the Joker was fantastic. I felt that really, really did well. And there's a very pivotal scene where you're always like kind of wondering why the Joker has this grip on Batman and why Batman can't, you know, is having to deal with it. That little cliffhanger piece, and if you've seen this film, you know what I'm talking about, is just the epitome of the history between these two characters, and that really launches this film to where it is. And you know, having Two-Face in it was good. I mean, it was the secondary character, villain was, you know, very solid piece in the whole thing, and you're building that relation with Batman and Commissioner Gordon. So there's a lot of those elements to the Batman mythos story that was very well a solid place, but it just reminded me of Frank Miller's Dark Knight. It had a lot of those elements in play with all the gadgets and gear that he got going on, and it was just an amazing role by Heath Ledger. You know, of course, he won awards for it. It was fantastic, and if you have not seen this film, you're missing out for the edginess that is the Joker taking on Batman, and it is awesome. So you need to check this out. It is my number 2, which was really tough to get into number 1, but we're ready to find out what that number 1 is.
Number 1.
Yep, we're finally at the top of my dozen favorite superhero films of all time. Coming in from last year, during which was 2012. This was directed by Josh Whedon, and this is none other than Avengers. Oh yeah, why number 1 over Batman? Simply because of the scope that you had. You have Hulk, Captain America, Thor, Iron Man. You add in Black Widow, you add in Hawkeye. But to have these iconic characters who went off to have some earlier movies on their own to give you their origin, it's just the icing on the cake, they kind of say it, so to speak, where you take the time to build Thor, you took the time to get all these other characters, Captain America and Iron Man, already rolling. He had 2 films before this. You just had this building grouping of what's going on, so it's almost like reading comics to get to this point of a mashed Marvel team up, and then you get this in Avengers, a great villain to take on it in this aspect here. It was just over the top. It was just awesome to see these alien fights, the battles going on, the team come together, and then to have the success of this film spin off Marvel Agents Shield, the Agents of Shield there is just gotta tell you exactly how well this film did. That it took a cameo appearance from a guy who's playing Colston to start making his own TV show because of what they did in these shows, and the Avengers is just mind-boggling. And Whedon is a really, really favorite mine director. If you don't know his work, you need to check him out because he has made some, very, they say, cult TV shows because his writing is very hip. It's very clever. They're not great for you to understand if you just pick up something from Whedon and go, hey, I just kind of watched a little bit of this. It's not going to get you. You need to kind of see the scope of where he is because he really has a great sense of history and tying in and working with that, and that's really what showcased himself in Avengers. Can't wait to see his second one coming in. That's my number 1. You got basically some of the best of Marvel. They all team up, to take on and save New York, and it is starting a whole new industry for Marvel, and it is a masterpiece, well done, with everything from the effects to the people they chose to acting for all the roles. Awesome Avengers. They are the mighty Avengers, and they are number 1 on my top list of superheroes here. So I hope you enjoyed this. If you have any comments for what you thought should be on the list and I missed out, or you didn't think should be on the list, that's fine. I'm looking forward to your comments. I really enjoyed putting this list together. I hope you enjoyed hearing my voice and my opinions. And like I said, I look forward to having you guys comment below, and we'll see what we can do for the next installment of Spectre Studio's Top Dozen Movies.